In Pakistan, with millions affected by persistent flooding.
There are cities in Sindh that have seen 1,100 millimeters in one day. No city that I know can take that amount of rain. Everywhere you pump the water, there is nowhere to pump.
With more fighting around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, we speak to the man in charge of Ukraine's electricity grid.
We restored like 10 to 15% of the whole infrastructure of whole country within 2 months after the occupation of northern regions.
And money for something, the British musician who is paying his fans for their musical ideas.
I feel like these people are no different to me. I just happen to be making the art. Like, if the ideas are coming from people, I need to remunerate them as well.
All of that after the news.
Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. Aid agencies say current flooding in Pakistan is turning out to be one of the worst disasters in the country's history, as the incessant rains have brought unprecedented destruction. An official said water had destroyed the houses and livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of people, and public infrastructure had been severely damaged. Our South Asia editor is Ambarasana Rajan.
Pakistan has been reeling from flash floods and landslides triggered by torrential monsoon rains for the past 2 months. In the northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the Kabul River has broken its banks, sweeping away houses and hotels, and thousands of residents in some districts have been asked to move to safer places. Floods during monsoons are not uncommon in Pakistan, but this time the situation has been calamitous. The army is joining relief and rescue operations. The government has asked for international help. Pakistan is regarded as one of the countries most vulnerable to extreme weather caused by climate change.
Clashes have been continuing in the Libyan capital Tripoli through the night and into the morning between rival factions. A political showdown threatens to plunge the country back into violence. Sebastian Usher reports.
Blackened buildings and cars in the centre of Tripoli reveal the ferocity of the fighting. Residents say the sounds of battle were deafening and reawakened fears of a violence that scarred the Libyan capital and much of the rest of the country for many years. The current political standoff emerged after UN-sponsored efforts to hold elections last year came to nothing. The internationally recognised Prime Minister Abdulhamid al-Dabeiba continues to preside over a government in Tripoli, but a rival administration has again risen in the east, with the parliament there electing Fatih Basaga as what they say is the legitimate prime minister after Dabeiba's interim mandate expired.
Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has announced $30 billion in aid to promote development in Africa over the next 3 years. The pledge comes as Japanese and African leaders meet in Tunisia to discuss economic growth on the continent, where China has been cementing its influence through investment projects. Mr. Kishida stressed that Japan would grow together with Africa. The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, has strongly condemned an airstrike on a kindergarten in the capital of the Tigray region of Ethiopia. Medical staff in Mekelle say at least 4 people were killed. Kalkadan Yibeltal is in Addis Ababa.
Ongoing communications blackouts mean the BBC has not been able to independently confirm the claims. Authorities in Addis have warned people to stay away from what they call military targets. A top European official said civilians should not be targeted. The return of the fighting in the region now raises concerns that northern Ethiopia might be about to plunge into yet another round of bloodshed.
BBC News. Ukraine's nuclear operator says Russian troops have again repeatedly shelled the grounds of the Zaporizhzhia plant over the past 24 hours. It says it's clear the infrastructure of the station has been damaged. The risk of fire is high, as well as the potential leakage of hydrogen and the sputtering of radioactive substances. Moscow says it's Kiev that's shelling the plant. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has welcomed an offer by the former US basketball star Shaquille O'Neal to help the government give greater recognition to Australia's Aboriginal peoples. Speaking in Sydney alongside the 4-time NBA champion, Mr Albanese said the star had a record in the United States of lifting up the marginalised.
We want to build the broadest possible support, and we want to engage with people who can connect with young people in particular, but with all sections of our society. Shaq has that record, particularly when it comes to bringing people together of different backgrounds, which is consistent with our approach.
The Dutch authorities have bussed several hundred asylum seekers from an emergency camp after health officials said a lack of hygiene left them vulnerable to a serious outbreak of infectious diseases. Hundreds of people have been forced to sleep outside the official reception centre in Ter Apel.